The United States is leaning heavily into military threats against Iran. The Defense Secretary has publicly stated that American forces are locked and loaded, warning that they possess better intelligence and firepower than ever before. The specifics of those threats are severe. The Pentagon has openly targeted civilian and dual-use Iranian infrastructure, warning that they are ready to strike remaining power generation and the broader energy industry if diplomatic talks fail to yield results. In response, Iran is actively demonstrating that it refuses to be intimidated. While they lack an extensive naval fleet, they are relying on foreign military intelligence to counter American movements. Specifically, Iran has reportedly utilized Chinese reconnaissance satellites and Russian intelligence networks to track high-value targets, calculating the exact coordinates of assets like the USS Abraham Lincoln. When you combine public threats to decimate an entire nation's power grid with the involvement of Russian and Chinese intelligence, it creates the perception of an imminent global catastrophe. It looks and sounds exactly like the first moves of World War III. But military analysts observing these movements largely agree on a different reality. A full-scale war is the last thing either side actually wants right now. This suggests a widening gap between the public-facing threats of annihilation and the private strategic calculations driving the movement of carrier groups and drone fleets. To understand that strategy, we have to look at this map. This is the Strait of Hormuz, a massive choke point for global shipping, and the primary location where this geopolitical chess match is actually taking place. Both nations are engaging in a tactic called saber rattling. This is a deliberate show of aggressive military resolve, designed strictly to prove to an opponent that you are ready for a fight, without actually starting one. The Pentagon's actual tactical movements reflect this. Instead of mobilizing for a massive ground invasion, the U.S. has moved to secure control of maritime traffic, setting up naval blockades directly on Iranian ports. This specific move strips Iran of its most powerful point of leverage. Historically, Iran's ultimate threat was its ability to independently shut down the strait, cutting off massive portions of global trade. By securing the strait, the U.S. achieves two things at once. They keep global energy markets flowing and stable, while simultaneously starving Iran financially by blocking their physical access to the water. This naval density operates as a high-stakes mechanism for financial and physical containment. This economic reality also explains the behavior of the wider global powers involved. Russia and China are providing enough intelligence to mitigate some of Iran's immediate disadvantages, but they are drawing a hard line. They are actively refusing to commit to a formal military alliance. The hesitation comes down to trade. Both China and Russia maintain highly complex, incredibly lucrative economic ties with the neighboring Gulf states. Those macroeconomic superpowers have massive financial investments in the Middle East. They are not willing to let Iran drag their domestic economies into a volatile regional conflict. Because these outer powers are deliberately limiting their involvement to protect their own wallets, the wider conflict remains strictly contained. So if war isn't the goal, the extreme threats from the Defense Department serve a different purpose entirely. They operate as a maximum pressure tactic to force the opponent to the negotiating table. There is a direct historical precedent for this. The Trump administration has a clear track record of issuing apocalyptic warnings, threatening the destruction of entire civilizations right before sitting down to sign a diplomatic agreement. Behind the scenes, the immediate goal of all this posturing is highly bureaucratic, securing an extension of the current ceasefire. Keeping the guns quiet for just a few more weeks is critical. That extension provides the essential window of time needed for upcoming diplomatic talks in Islamabad to actually yield a breakthrough. While pessimists fear this is simply a brief pause in a recurring cycle of proxy wars, there is tangible momentum building behind a diplomatic solution. Military blockades and threats of annihilation are being used to narrow Iran's options, leaving a return to the negotiating table as the only viable path forward. In this specific geopolitical framework, the loudest threats of total destruction act as the strongest indicators that the diplomatic process is actually moving forward.